on this computer. Second, I have to give my disclosure that I am not a finance professor. I majored in accounting. I enjoy this stuff. I'm a little bit of a nerd, so this is all fun, all good things. I also have terrible handwriting, so if you can't read it, I'm sorry. We'll do what we can. So we'll start with the group chat first. And if you haven't taken accounting at any level, even some basics, they get into an income statement, but they don't really, they give you the basics, income minus costs gives you a certain amount of money. They don't go into specifics too much of, EBITDA, as some of my professors would call it, or EBIT, things like that. So what I'm going to do first is just make an income statement and explain it as I go through. And that way we kind of understand where we're coming from. So first, in an income statement, we have sales, right? That's the first, and of course, all this will be in a number, but I'm going to put it in words just so we understand what we're doing. So we're going to do sales, and then we have minus costs of goods sold. This could also be expenses if it's not like a production company, but we're not going to get into that kind of specifics. When we do this, this is where we get earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization. Okay. From here, what we would do is subtract depreciation. We haven't talked about amortization in this course, and I pray we don't. So we're going to ignore it. And we would subtract the DA. This is where we get earnings before interest and tax, right? Here we would subtract interest here, and then you have your earnings before tax. At this point, here you would subtract tax and you get your income. Down here, it's net income, profit, bottom line, and this is the path it follows. So in that question, he gave you sales and cost of goods sold. He also gave you depreciation. That was to throw you off. And then he gave you the tax. So when you subtracted these two, you had your number. Like, this is what you needed. When you subtracted them, you had your number. But to throw you off, he put depreciation in there too. You don't have to. Now, if somebody were to give you this number, you have to add depreciation back in and then subtract taxes. So he threw in some extra variables to mess with you. And that's just the basics of the absolute basics of an income statement. So when he gives you a question like that, I forgot, this was what this was an operating cash flow question, I believe. So let me see here. I got my sheet. Operating cash flow. Yeah, this is operating cash flow. So whenever he gives you these two, you have the number you need, just subtract taxes. Are there any questions on that?
Which question was that? I wasn't in the chat to.
That was 1-2, and then it was number 27.
Thank you.
Yeah, that explanation was perfect. Thank you.
Good. It was kind of wordy, so I didn't know if like my paragraphs in there would make sense. So I just wanted to walk through it anyways. Next, we are going to do M 2-1 number 20. The reason I want to hit this one is because they help drive home one of the accounting principles I said in my last Zoom, and they're also kind of confusing. So 20 is Corner Books has a debt to equity ratio of 0.57. What is the total debt ratio? So our debt to equity ratio, if we look at our formula sheet, is total debt divided by total equity, right? This is really just liabilities divided by equity. And of course, we have to remember our accounting equation. Assets equals liabilities plus equity. This is a balance sheet thing. This is always going to be true, and it's going to help us a lot in a lot of the equations that we went through on the homework. So we know this equals 0.57. But that's all he gives us. We have two variables. We don't know what they are, but we do know the outcome is 0.57. Well, we know anything multiplied or divided by 1 equals that number. So if we do 0.57 divided by 1, we still get 0.57. That tells us that our equity is 1 and our total debt or our liabilities is 0.57. When we go to this equation, we just add them. 1.57 gives us our assets, right? So we look here, he's asking for the total debt ratio. The total debt ratio is total debts divided by total assets. So we know from here, our liabilities is 0.57, right? So we've got 0.57 over 1.57. And when we do that, on 5% divided by 1.57, we get 0.3631, or if we just round is 0.36. Any questions on that one? Move on. Let me lay this down real quick. Next, we have, we're going to do 24 from M2-1. Frank's Used Cars has sales of 807,200, total assets of 768,100, and a profit margin of 6.68%. The firm has a total debt ratio of 54%. What is the return on equity? So we have a couple equations for return on equity. One is net income over total equity, or we have the DuPont identity, which is profit margin times total asset turnover times equity multiplier. Well, let's see what we got here. We know sales. That's crucial to finding net income. We're always going to need to know sales. So our sales equals 807,200, right? Okay. What else do we know? We know we have a profit margin of 6.68%. So our profit margin equals 6.68. Okay. Well, for our return on equity, we need our net income. These two give us that. Again, our profit margin is how much of a dollar hits the bottom line. So this is telling us for every dollar we have in sales, 6.68 cents of that make it to the bottom line. So what we'll do is we'll multiply these. Again, we have to turn this into a percentage when we're calculating. So we'll do 807,200 times 0.0668, and that equals, so our NI, our net income, equals 53,920 0.96. All right, so we got one part of our equation there. Next, we got to find our total equity. Well, what do we know? We know our total assets is 768,100. Well, we remember our formula, put it up here. Assets equals liability plus equity. We know our assets is where is this thing at? 24 is 768,100. Right? But we have these two other variables that we don't know. So we know we have a total debt ratio of 54%. Again, our total debt equation is total debt or liabilities divided by total assets. So I know L divided by 768,100 equals 54% or 0.54. Okay. So we want to solve for L here because this is the variable we want to know. It's going to help us get to our end variable, but we want to know what this is. So in order to get this by itself, since we're dividing by this number, we have to multiply both sides by 768,100. So we have 768,100 times 0.54. And that equals 4, or here, let me, when we do that, we get L equals 414,774. This is our liability. So we still don't have everything we need, but again, we go back to this equation. I know my equity is the difference between these two numbers. So I do 768,100 minus 414,774 equals, and that means my equity equals 353,326. 353,326. Now I've got the other part to help me find the return on equity. So it'll be our net income, 53,920.96 divided by our equity, 353,326. We get that 53, hold on, back 920.96 divided by 353,326 equals, this equals 0.1526. Move this twice, that gives us 15.26%. Y'all can see that it's down here. Do those 15.26%. Are there any questions on that one? Cool. And of course, all this was in the first Zoom, which when I'm done with this video, I'll post it as well. If anybody, the first one goes through all of the, we go through every M2-1 question and work them all out. Next, we're going to do M2-2 number 20. And we're going to get into our calculators now. So I'm going to do my best to show you guys how we do all of this stuff. It's really simple. Don't let Don't let them scare you off that our time value of money equations get really crazy. If you don't have one of these, get one of these calculators. It's going to really save you a lot of stress and it's going to make everything nice and easy. So we're going to get into time value of money. Anybody have a question? Nope. Okay. So number 20 is you own a classic car currently valued at $64,000. If the value increases by 2.5% annually, how much will the car be worth 15 years from now? I'll pull this back up for a second. So again, what I like to do is I like to pull out the variables that I do know to help me understand what I'm trying to look for. NR I/Y PV PMT FB. So this is all the variables we need. You don't need all of these. All right. We're always going to be trying to find one of them. So as long as we have the other ones filled in, we're good. So for this one, we know we have a car that's currently valued at $64,000. That's our present value. 64, 1, 2, 3. All right. We know the value increases by 2.5% annually. This is our interest rate. This is how it appears on the calculator. R I-Y, they're both the same meaning, equals 2.5. N is our number of periods. We know we're trying to figure out how much this car is going to be worth 15 years from now, right? So we have all of these. Our PMT is our payment. That's if you have a set payment and you're putting it into an account or you're taking it out, that's where this will come in. Since we have no payments here, it'll be 0. So with these, what we want to do is on our calculator, I always like to hit clear. I like to hit clear a lot, and I like to hit FV second and then FV again. That is the clear time value of money. I am one of those people who checks their door 3 times to make sure it's locked when they leave in the morning. So I hit these buttons a lot just to make sure it's clear, because if it's not, your previous equation can throw you off a lot. So first, what we're going to do is we're going to enter our factors. Well, we know 64,000 is our present value. I put it as, I hit the wrong button. 64, 1, 2, 3, negative. I put it as a negative just because that means that the money is like going to an account or something. If you leave it as positive, it thinks it's more like a bill coming towards you. In this case, the negative doesn't matter. If you're trying to find interest rate, however, your future value and your present value, one of them is going to have to be different. Okay, one is going to have to be a negative, because if you don't, you're going to get an error number 5, because this is thinking, well, you just gave away $64,000 and you're saying your future value is $80,000 in that same account. Like, you're not giving anything to work with. So we have to say negative, we're giving $64,000 and our future value will be positive. That means we're getting it back. So it understands to calculate the interest rate from there, right? So we're going to put that in and hit present value, and it populates. All right. Then we're going to type in the next thing we know. Our interest rate is 2.5. So we're going to type 2.5. Here, you're not going to put it as a decimal, because you're literally, this is the interest rate. It won't calculate right if you put in a decimal. And then how much will the car be worth 15 years from now? So we know 15 is our number of periods. And if you want to, you can put 0. I think it's automatically, but 0 for payment, because we're not constantly putting money in. Payment will also calculate off the number of periods. So if I'm saying $500 over 3 periods, that means I'm giving $500 away, or whatever the money is flowing those 3 periods. So we could put 0 in there. And we're trying to figure out what the car will be worth, which is our future value. So we want to compute and then hit FV, and it tells us 926.91. So $92,691. And if we round it up 10 cents or 8 cents, here he has 2 decimal points, so it would be D, 92,691.08. And of course I hit clear, second, clear time value of money, and clear again. Are there any
What are you
questions?
pressing? Yes. What are you pressing after you input the values? I'm sorry, I couldn't exactly see.
I'm pressing the button that value goes towards. So like 15 is my number of years. I'm going to hit N. That way it says N equals 15, which is our number of payments or periods. That's our number of periods. And then I'd also like our interest rate. I would then just hit 2.5,
Mhm.
and then I would put that in the interest rate. So now interest rate equals 2.5.
Okay, so you don't have to hit enter after. Okay,
Nope. Clear.
thank you.
No problem. Any other questions on that one? Is everybody good? Is everybody getting 92,691.08? That's if anybody's trying to do it too.
Hey, Greg, I got that one. I don't know, and if you don't have these listed as ones to go over, no worries, but the two that I had an issue with that module, all the other ones that I like, you do have to practice plugging it into the calculator, but I was okay after that. But 35 and 36, those are the two that I just can't seem to figure out.
I do have 36 to go down.
Okay.
We can let's see if we have time. So whenever I get to those, we'll go over them as well, because those two are the same. We'll go over 31 and then we'll be on 36. So back up the whiteboard and erase this. This is yeah, this is a cash flow. So this stuff is not going to be relevant right now. I can do this later if people need help. So looking at 31, this enterprise is considering purchasing DMM. DMM has expected cash flows of 42,800, 56,700, and 37,100 for the next 3 years respectively. After that, the products DDM produces will be obsolete and thus DMM will be worthless. If TLE requires a return of 18%, what amount should they offer as a purchase price? So again, I like to clear it. This is a cash flow problem. So we're going to hit CF. That's our cash flow button right next to second. And then we're going to hit second and then CE to clear it. That should wipe cash flow out. If not, do it a couple times, hit CE at the end. And then we go to cash flow. All right. And that brings up this CF 0 equals nothing. Here, we're talking about the next 3 years. We have no money right now. CF 0 is like right now. The current year, which there is nothing. So we're going to hit enter and then we're going to hit down. And that brings us to enter. Oh, wait, no. That brings us to CO1. That is our first cash flow, which that would be 42,800. When you type it in, 42,800, and then you hit enter. Boop. Okay, so that populates the first year. After you hit enter, hit down over here, down, and that brings us to FO1, which is like frequency. That amount's only getting put in 1 year. So we hit enter 1 for that 1 year, then we hit down. CO2. CO2 is 56,700. It's 56,700. And we hit enter, it populates, CO2, and then we hit down. And that brings us to FO2. Again, the frequency of this amount is only 1. So we hit enter, And then we go down again to our CO3. Our CO3 is 37,100. So we type in 37,100. Then we hit enter. Go down. Frequency for number 3, again, that's number 1. So we hit enter. Then we go down, and that brings us to CO4. We don't have a cash flow number 4. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit the NPV button right here next to cash flow. When we do that, it's going to bring up an I. This is our interest rate. We require an 18% return on any of our investments. So that means we're going to type in 18. That's our interest rate that we want. We're going to hit enter. It's going to populate. And then we're going to hit down. And that's going to bring NPV, our net present value. There we just hit compute. And it brings up the net present value of that cash flow plus our required 18%, which is 99,572.449 or 0.45, which would be D, 99,572.45.
Can you go over again how to clear that? Because I've hit all the buttons and I still can't clear the thing.
Yeah, so we can hit second is CE, it's this clear work down here.
Mhm.
And then I hit CE a lot. And then I go back to cash flow. Again, this is just how I am. And I hit second CE again, just because I check my door 3 times when I leave. And then it should be good. So we can go to cash flow, enter, down, there's nothing, enter, down. The ones automatically populate, enter, down, CO2, there's nothing there. So it's clear at that point. Are there any other questions on that one? For this one, I will bring the board back up. So we're going to go over 36. Walt can afford monthly car payments of $140 for 3 years. Starting 1 month from now, the interest rate is 4.6% compounded monthly. How much can he afford to borrow to buy a car? Okay, so we know our payment T equals 140. Our N equals 3 years. Again, this is monthly. 3 years. And our interest rate is 4.6%. 6% a year. All right. We have to make all of these units the same thing. And this is where it's getting thrown off. So for years, we're going to have to turn this into month. So we're going to divide this or multiply this by 12, which gives us 60. And then we're going to divide this number by 12. So we get our monthly interest rate. All right. So we are going to type that in.
10 times 12, 36.
Shouldn't
the end be 36?
Yeah, this is number 36.
Oh, it says 60. No, sorry, the number. shouldn't be
Yeah.
30.
So it tells us 3 years, but our payment is in month. So we have to figure out monthly. So we have to convert these 2 units. These are in years to months. So
Yeah,
we
but-
multiply it by 12.
Isn't 3 times 12, 36? Not 30.
Is it 3 times 12 equals? Oh yeah, it is 36. My bad. I'm not good at math. That's why I have a calculator. Thank you. 36. All right. So there's that 36. And we put it into our calculator. So our payment is 140. So we type in 140, hit payment. Then we know our number of periods is 36 because it's 3 times 12. 36 is in. And now the interest rate for this is something to be careful on. So what I want to do is, I know my interest rate is 4.6, and we're going to divide it by 12, right? We hit enter, and that brings up 0.3833. We have 4 decimal points for a reason here, and I'll show you why. So whenever this comes up, hit IY and just leave it. Put the whole number in there. Okay. Then we want to compute.
Hey, Greg, I'm so sorry. So you just took that 4.69 and divided it by 12, right?
Yes,
69 divided by,
it's, hold on, let me see here. 4 point, it's 4.6 divided by 12
okay.
equals, and it brings that up. And then I just immediately hit the IY, and I'll show why in a little bit, because you want that whole number in there. And then we hit compute. That's not right. Where is this going wrong? I'm looking at the wrong one here, 36. No. Second clear, hold on. 36 in. The payment is 140 payment. And our R is 4.6 divided by 12 IY. No. 6 divided by IY. Compute. Hold on.
Hey, Craig,
Hey,
should months be 35 because it's stating starting 1 month from now?
it could be.
That's what confused me on this problem, was the wording.
I thought that too. He has it as 36 too. I had to check that too because I did 35 as well. But I get for the 3 years times 12, it's still 3 years is still the same. Equals 140 is our payment compute. Okay, now I got it. So let me go through it again. Clear my time value money. Sorry, clear. So, all right, 36, which is our number of periods, is N. Populate that one. Our payment is 140. 140 payment. And then 4.6 divided by 12 equals that 0.3833. That's going to be our interest rate. And then we're going to compute present value, which it comes out as a negative, which is fine. It's negative 4699.31, which is E. Sorry, I had trouble computing what was at the end there, and I'll go through it again. But I want to show where I made a lot of mistakes besides the 35 months. So 36 in, right? 140 is our payment. What I would do is I did 4.6 divided by 12. What I did is I just took the first 2 numbers. So I would retype it, 0.38, and I would put that as my interest, right? So when I compute present value, it comes out at $4,702. So that little bit of a change, I mean, it threw it off by $3, but when I'm sitting here looking at 4717 and 4699, I don't understand what I did wrong. Which also takes me back to the equation for this problem, which I'll go to his answer sheet for to try and make this make sense. 36. So that in his equation, he has it as a decimal. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep it like this just so you see it, but in his equation, it's a parentheses. So 4.6 divided by 12 parentheses. What I realized is whatever I'm doing in here is technically within those parentheses as long as I hit the right button. This is the parentheses. So since I'm trying to do interest rate, once I do 4.6 divided by 12 equals, and I get that number, that's all within the parentheses as long as I put it in the interest rate, if that makes sense. So
Mhm.
if you're trying to find, let's say, our present value, just to give an example, our PV equals 6 divided by 2, just something stupid. Here, we would just do 6 divided by 2, enter, it gives us our number, and then we would hit PV. And it puts that technically in the parentheses.
Mm.
So for this one, you have to make sure that all of your units match. So when we divide this by 12, we turn it into months. When we multiply this by 12, we turn it into months, and that matches our monthly payment.
Mhm, mhm.
That's actually a really good reminder because I have done this problem 2 or 3 times and I always get stuck. So if you just remember, if the payment's in months, you've got to translate your numbers.
Mhm.
Yes, and honestly, I don't know what it is about this one too, but as you saw, I swear, every time I do this one for the first time, something goes wrong. And like I have to go back like 2 or 3 times to get it to actually work right. They're just so finicky. And obviously there's a lot that can go wrong and throw it off. So 35. Well, we have time unless anybody's dying to get off. We'll go through 35 real quick. It's the same type. So an investment will pay $1,200 per quarter for 15 years. You require a return of 12% compounded quarterly. For this type of investment, how much is this investment worth to you today? Let's see if I can get this one right the first time, or if I can mess it up the first time too. It's the same thing as the one we just did. So the payment is 1,200 a quarter, QTR. Our 35 for 15 years. So our N equals 15. Our interest rate that we require is 12%. Right? So again, this is a year. This is a year. We have to time 15. We got to turn this into quarter by 4 equals. Here's that number I had it for 60. Don't try to read notes while you're doing math. And we have to turn our 12% into quarter as well, which equals 3, right? We converted. So now all of these are in quarters. So we go to our calculator. See if we can do this right. I'm not nervous. And we're going to do 1,200. So 1,200. That is going to be our payment. It's how much they're going to pay us per quarter. Then we're going to do, and I'll actually do it here to show you, our periods is 15 years, but we have to turn it into quarters. So we multiply that by 4 and we hit enter, and that gives us 60. That's what we want. So we'll put that as the number of periods. Same thing with our interest rate, which is 12%. Divide it, we got to divide it by 4 because we need that to compound quarterly. So we divide it by 4, hit enter, that gives us 3. We hit I/Y for our interest rate. Then we compute our present value, which is 33,210.6. We'll round up 8, which is 33,210.68.
Thank you.
No problem. That is crucial. So if you have those 3 elements, your period and your interest rate always have to match. If payments involved, it has to match as well. Because if I put a yearly payment that compounds quarterly over quarterly periods, it's going to look very nice. But when I convert it back, it's going to drop significantly.
Mhm.
So always make sure when you do those, you put all of those three in the same.
And any time an interest rate is given, is annual.
I'm sorry.
Do you think that, it's safe to say anytime an interest rate is given, that it's gonna be annual?
I would hope so. Yes. If not, then professor's just being mean. I would always assume it would be annual.
Can you explain the negative at the end that we got? I know it doesn't mean anything now, but. it
Yeah,
turns
that's just
into one line.
because I put my payments in as a positive. It's going to compute the opposite because it thinks the negative and the positive mean like cash outflow. So if I say negative, my money is leaving my bank account going wherever. So that 1,200, if I turn it into a negative and put it as my payment and then put 60 in 3 interest rate and then compute my present value, it's going to come out as a positive because the cash flow is opposite from that.
Okay, thank you. It's just the direction of the cash.
Yes. Which, like I mentioned before, that is relevant when, like, if you're trying to find an interest rate, or number of periods, if you have present value and future value, those are going to have to be opposite, and your payment is going to have to match which one you're trying to do. So let's see if he has one here. What's the annual rate? Let's try 34. That one will be fun. Don't have any notes on it, so we're gonna give it a go. Erickson's is considering a project with an initial cost of $623,000. The project will produce cash inflows of $33,500 monthly for 21 months. What is the annual rate of return on this project? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type 623. 623. Give me 623,000. I'm going to put that as a negative because I'm investing in this project. That amount is leaving my bank account. I'm now down that much money. Then I have 33,500 monthly, 33,500 as my payment. I'm going to leave that as positive because that cash is flowing back to me. Payment, 33,500. And that is over 21 months, 21 in, right? So then I'm going to compute my interest rate, which comes out to 1.1355, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. That's not any of the numbers on here. But again, since our payments were in months and our periods were in months, we have to now convert this number to years because this is being given in monthly. It's matching the payment and it's matching the periods that we put in. So to do that, we multiply it by 12, and that gives us 13.5866, or in this case, 13.59.
Thank you.
No problem.
I do think I'm finally getting somewhere.
It's all fun. I don't know. I have fun with this stuff. I enjoy the challenge. It's all a big puzzle.
I actually had a blast in accounting. My problem are the more algebraic ones, because like algebra was high school. Long time ago.
It's been
Yeah.
a minute. It's okay. It's been a minute. I feel you.
Yeah.
I'm married
Just-
to an electrical engineer who was trying to help me, and I go, I'm not asking you anymore. I'm going to Greg. And he goes, thank God bless Greg.
That's gonna save
Yeah.
your marriage.
It probably will.
Yeah, it's
So Greg,
always,
you can add, you can add that to your resume that you have saved marriages.
I'm gonna put
You're a
that on there.
counselor.
Tell my employer I need a raise. Are there any other questions through any of the modules that we have done so far? Or anything that people, we have a few minutes left. Anything anybody's dying that I have not covered?
I got stuck on 2-1, 26. The Oscars doghouse question.
Oscar's Doghouse. Okay, we can do that one. So this one is where you will need your ratio sheet. Because that's all they give us. What is the return on equity? So we're going to have to work through our equations to figure out what our return is on equity. So we know, well, actually, this one is one of the DuPont identity ones, because they give us the DuPont identity as profit margin. Oh, that's a B, that's not a P. We got our profit margin. Does everybody know the DuPont equation? I don't have to write it on here. Profit margin times
Mhm.
total asset turnover times equity multiplier. So we know our profit margin equals 5.6. We know that our return on assets equals 12.5. And our equity multiplier equals 1.49. So we already have two of these, but we don't have our total asset turnover, which is our net income or our sales divided by total assets. One of the bad things is we have no solid numbers to help us figure out what our sales are. In this question, I am not 100% on. I'm doing his solution and what I think it is, based off how he did it, how I think it actually works. And like math, I have not multiplied fractions in a long time, but I'm assuming, at least I think how he did it is profit margin is net income divided by sales. Right, that's one. Our number two total asset turnover is sales divided by total assets times our equity multiplier is 1.49. We don't have to, this is also given in there, but for my solution, I'm going to leave it. Our return on assets is actually net income divided by total assets. Well, we have those here, our net income and our total assets, which is our return on assets. So if we just cancel these out, cancel, move this one over, we got net income over total assets, which is 12.5. So we got 12.5 times 1.49. which equals 12.5 times 1.49 equals 18.63. Which one are we looking at? 26, which is B.
Greg, why are you not converting the numbers into decimal? Why are you using this decimal?
That's just the ratio number. Since all of these are in decimals, like all of these are a percentage, I don't have to convert them. I'm just multiplying like numbers.
Okay. But the equity multiplier, see, the thing that's throwing me off a lot is when you convert a thing to a percentage. And then use decimals.
Yeah, so this one, we have no solid numbers to work off of. So like I can't really solve for X here because I don't have a base. So like none of these actually have numbers. Like our return on assets is this, it just equals 12.5. There's nothing here for me to work off of. I could like do a whole roundabout way, but I think I would do more harm than good. Like
Mhm.
even attempting it, I think I would just confuse you guys and probably myself if I even attempted to like work backwards the way he does. I don't think it would go well. So this, I mean, this is how he shows his solution. I think like the last time I multiplied fractions was like elementary school. So maybe you can do that. That's what he does. And then that's our return on assets. So he just takes that and multiplies it by the equity multiplier and you get your answer.
Yeah, that makes sense because it's like 1/1. They cancel.
Right. And you just shift this one over and it's 12.5. I tried to look it up, but I got a bunch of kids questions and none of them had one like this. They all had like denominators. So
Mhm.
it didn't go well. So to the best of my knowledge, that is how that one works. Is everybody good?
Yep.
I think so. I still think I need to figure out 26, but
Yeah,
like I can do it. It's just like I don't understand why. So when I don't understand why, it's very hard to remember it.
agreed. And to the best of my knowledge, that's how it works. I don't know beyond that, so I do apologize.
No, that's okay.
We have 2 minutes. Anything else anybody is dying for? Which we can go a little over. We started late, so if y'all have questions, we can run through them. No? None? All right, we all got was it Ryan? Let's see if I can find. Someone got a really good grade. We're all gonna copy him now. Yeah,
He said he got a 95. I'm like, oh man, I have to be
Good.
honest. Yeah, I mean, my goal was a 4.0. I haven't gotten below a 97 on any class yet, but I have to tell you guys, at this point, I think a C will look really good.
it is not near as bad as he makes it seem. Like all of the time value of money equations look atrocious, but the calculator does everything. So if you know how to put it in right, you'll be fine.
Okay.
Since this video will wind up being posted to the public, I won't say the guy's name, but he did get an A. Now everybody else has to get an A as well.
Sounds good.
I've invested a lot of money, which is my time in you guys. So we all have to pass this now with flying colors. It's easy.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Thank you for
Take
doing
care.
this.
Yeah,
Really
no problem.
Greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, thank
Of
you.
course.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Y'all have a good evening and a good weekend and pass these exams.
Take care, guys.
See ya.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks,
Bye.
Greg.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.